Hi everybody, welcome to Make Chairs. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my foundation routine update of how I'm going to take care of those blemishes that I have on my face. Before we start into the routine, I just want to cover a few things I think are important before you start to apply your makeup. I have a whole video on prepping your skin, so if you wanted to click the link here, then you will be taken to that video, and it's a whole playlist of all these different things, beginner's guide to pretty much everything from blush, bronzer, highlighter, all that kind of. But I also want to cover a few things here before we start. It's important that you've already applied your moisturizer onto your face. A lot of people think, oh well, I just don't really need a moisturizer, my skin's pretty good. But if you apply moisturizer, your foundation will have something to stick to, and it will really grab hold of the pigments and it will last longer in your skin. So it's important that you put something, anything on your skin before you apply your foundation. You can also use a primer, but it's not totally necessary. Not everybody needs a primer. If you have very oily skin or you have very dry skin, you can get a primer that's going to work with that, and it's going to make sure that your foundation looks a little bit better on the skin. But if you have kind of okay skin and it doesn't really bother you that much, then just stick to just using a moisturizer. So I hope this video helps you, and just keep watching. Okay, so this is me with no makeup on at all, and it's like, these are blemishes that have been lying underneath my skin for like the longest time, and they've just been like little bumps. Now they've come to the surface, and I'm hoping that if I keep with my routine, that maybe in a few weeks these will be completely clear, and then I'll have like okay skin. So we're hoping that it's going to be okay. So my skin is kind of mostly combination skin, so if you have combination skin, then this routine will hopefully help you. My foundation of choice is the Rimmel 25-hour lasting finish. It lasts for hours and hours. Like, it says 25 hours, which it probably does last on the face for 25 hours, but it will look really good for about 10 hours. So I love it. The only thing is, it's a little bit dark for me, but I match it up with my neck, and as you can see, my neck is a lot darker than my face. My face just doesn't brown. To apply my foundation, I'm using the Blank Canvas Cosmetics blending sponge. All I do is I take a little bit, then I'll just dab it over my face, and then what I start to do is kind of stipple. Now, a stippling motion is where you're patting and blending at the same time. So you're not like this, you're not like stroking the face like this, because that will give you kind of a barely there look when it comes to foundation. If you want a full coverage, then you're going to have to stipple. So you're going to press it down, and you're kind of pressing it into the skin. Now on my forehead, I'm not too concerned about getting coverage because my forehead is pretty much clear. So I just kind of stipple quickly, making sure you get right up to the hairline, but don't get it in your hair. When there's a little bit left over on the sponge, you can go around the eyebrows, because you don't want to get like foundation all over your eyebrows. And be careful in between your eyebrows, the sides here and the sides here, because there's a lot of hair in that area. You really need to make sure that the lightest amount of coverage is on there. So my cheeks are pretty much the same as my forehead. I don't really have too many blemishes or anything to cover up on my cheek area, so I will just blend it across the cheeks, just dabbing it, pressing it into the skin, and blending it into the skin. And I also like to go over my eyes as well, and I'm just going to work on this area where I have the most amount of blemishes. I'm going to take a bit of my foundation onto the tip of my blending sponge. You can also use your fingertips as long as they're clean, or you can use a foundation brush, and you basically use the same technique of stippling it on. You could also use a stippling brush as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press and push down, and this will make sure that it comes in contact with the skin. And then I will start to slowly blend this out. It's not a matter of really covering up these blemishes, but the great thing about this foundation is when you put concealer over the top, it works in sort of kind of sticking them together, so it kind of makes it kind of sticky and makes it really last longer as well. So that's what I love about this foundation. So once again, you want to blend into the hairline, but remember not to get too much into the hair, and you can blend this down the neck. So your foundation isn't there to cover up everything, it's just there to even out things so that you can then use a little bit of concealer on the areas that you need. The too much concealer, because I like the colour, but it takes a very long time to set. You also have to remember to shake these up just in the same way that you shake the foundation up to get it working. So I'm going to take a little bit on the back of my hand. When you're using concealers that have this kind of wand, you always want to make sure that you're using it off the back of your hand, or she can end up spreading bacteria, so don't do that. Put it on the back of your hand and use your fingertips fingertips to blend it in. If you have blemishes that are kind of oozing, then you're better off waiting for the spot to dry out before you apply your foundation. If you're finding that you need to quickly apply your foundation and you still have that oozing, then you can take some toner or some witch hazel or something, apply it on there for a few seconds and allow that to kind of dry it up. So I'm going to take a little bit onto my ring finger. So I'm going to start by just covering up this little one here. So what I do is I press a little bit concealer on, just like that, just to kind of cover it. And then what I'll do is I'll start to kind of blend that outwards and blending it back in with the skin. Try not to go over the top of the blemish. You kind of already put concealer down there. If you start kind of tapping it away, then you'll just keep removing it. And then you can see it's pretty much disappeared. You might find that sometimes when your concealer and your foundation aren't exactly the same shade and the same brand, that you need to go back over it with your foundation again just to make sure that it's completely blended in. Otherwise there can be such a color difference between your concealer and your foundation that they just don't look good together. And I'm going to do the same for these other blemishes. When you're concealing anything underneath the eyes, you want to make sure that you're only applying the concealer to the area that's discolored. Then I'll take my ring finger and I will just slowly start to stipple it out. So we're stippling again, stippling all the way through this entire tutorial. And that's basically where you're kind of pressing and dabbing it in and slowly blending it out. Now it's time to move on to setting the foundation. So there's a few different ways that you can do this. You could either use a kind of loose powder like this, which is great for pretty much everybody's skin, but it actually works better on oilier skin because it absorbs more oils than a pressed powder. You can also use a setting spray. So this is just by e.l.f. and this is a makeup setter. You basically spray this over the face and it will almost kind of hairspray your makeup on your face. You know, in the same way that you apply hairspray to your hair to make sure that it stays in place, this kind of works in the same way for your face. And it also works for your eyebrows as well. Don't ever use hairspray on your face. A few people were asking that before and I just wanted to say, no, don't do it. When it comes to using the powder, what I don't want to do is to swirl it into the lid because that can hold on to bacteria. So I'm going to take a clean tissue. You can also take a palette as well. And all you want to do is to sprinkle a little bit of this loose powder into the tissue. Using a nice big brush, if you use a smaller brush, you'll get a more concentrated effect. But if you use a larger brush, then you're just going to fill the whole area without applying too much of the powder. So I always like to start on the top of my forehead because that's where I get most oils. And I will just start to blend it across. Now I'm not like holding the brush like this and like pressing it into the skin. I'm holding the brush like this, quite far away, and kind of blending it across like that instead. So it's very lightly going over the face. A lot of people ask me about concealer for underneath the eyes and they say that as soon as they apply their concealer it starts to kind of sit in the lines. If you set it first of all before it has time to kind of crease up, then it should last for the entire day. And that's pretty much all I do to make sure that my skin kind of looks a little bit clearer throughout the day. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'm Shana Katie and thank you for watching.